And let's take a minute to talk about projection too, because I think that in terms of, I've never had a psychodynamic specialist on my podcast before.
Oh,
And so I mean, I've talked to a number of psychologists, right? But in terms
um,
of your specialty and the mode that you use for practice, I feel like the idea of projection is super powerful. So can you explore that both through the lens of narcissistic relationships, and then we can maybe extrapolate into like kids?
yeah, so let me just start off very basic and then we'll build from there based on what questions, okay? So
Okay.
what is projection? So projection just basically means that there's something inside of us, a feeling or a thought that's too painful to tolerate, and it's much more comfortable to get rid of it, eject it, right? And then but the problem with that is we eject it and then we put it on you, right? Now, sometimes it has great value. Like if I don't feel like, if I feel weak or powerless, right? Because I had an abusive father, it's much better to see you as weak and powerless and be, have the power over you because I don't have to then tolerate that painful feeling, right? But the problem with that, unfortunately, is people don't talk about introjection hardly ever. You probably don't even hear that word common. It's not so commonly used. But basically, we introject the people in our environment, right? This is the people who are closest to us are the things that we take in. So could you imagine, Lindsay, if everything you're projecting is negative, now you got to, like, let's say it's anger and you can't tolerate your anger. And now you would be imagining that I'm angry at you, right? But that makes for a very painful environment, right? Now you're taking in these angry, what we call introjects. I don't want to get too technical, but that's why it just becomes so important to work with projection. Again, you hear these stories that sometimes people who have these narcissistic traits are so worried about being judged. Sometimes they're so worried about being judged that they hold themselves back in life. They hole up in their apartments or in their house. They think that if they go outside, their next door neighbor is going to be critical of them, right? Because they didn't mow their lawn. I don't know, something like that, right? So you could imagine then getting into these projections and starting to explore and helping them own parts of themselves